I'd like to call this board meeting of PSTA to order, please. And may I please, Rachel, do you want to take the roll? No? But we have a quorum, correct? Okay, thank you. All right. Where's Commissioner Barkley? Would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this morning. I appreciate that you are all here. And as you know, we all will have an opportunity to speak. If you would wish to make any public comment, please fill out one of the comment cards on any of the topics that are either on the agenda or not on our agenda today. The card is green. Please make sure you fill it out. Okay, and with that said, let's move on to our first presentation this morning on PSTA's integral role in making this past weekend St. Pete Pride event a tremendous success. Here to tell us more about what we did, and our digital marketing manager, Alyssa Kostick. Alyssa, welcome.
Good morning, board members.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Alyssa Kostick, and I am the digital marketing manager. I've been the project manager for St. Pete Pride Weekend for the past 3 years here. Our participation in St. Pete Pride Weekend is threefold. We run a park and ride on parade day to help get parade goers to the waterfront. We participate in the St. Pete Pride Parade with a wrap bus and hand out branded koozies, and we participate in the street festival with our wrap Pride bus as a cooling station to cap off the weekend. This past weekend was a successful weekend, and we had tremendous number of riders for our park and ride on the parade day. We also welcome many festival goers to experience a PSTA bus for our Pride bus at the festival, which was a cooling station. This weekend could not happen without the help and support of so many people and different departments, and I want to take this time to thank all of those people and acknowledge them. James Bradford, Jeff Thompson, Bill O'Connell, Craig Daniels, and their entire transportation team for ensuring all the buses were on the road and ready to go. Theo and his safety and security team, AJ, Eddie, and Charles for ensuring the safety of the fleet, staff, and volunteers for the entire weekend. Transportation supervisors, Lloyd Jernigan and Liz Green, who assisted at the drop-off and pickup locations for the park and ride. Joe Cheney, Henry Lukasik, and the maintenance team for ensuring the bus was fixed and ready to go on the road and equipped with special equipment for the parade. Darren Mason and his team for ensuring the bus was ready for the parade and supplies were delivered to the park and ride. Missy and Ty and facilities for ensuring supplies were taken care of and delivered to the park and ride. Customer service for fielding calls on the info line and at the terminals about the park and ride. JR was our bus driver for the parade and for the festival for the last few years. Jacob Labutka was responsible for creating our transportation map because PSTA has been the official transportation provider for St. Pete Pride Weekend. Nicole Dufa was the on-site project manager and did an amazing job. Marianne Sobosinski for her help in event coordination. Ephraim Sanchez for making the pre-event video advertisements for the park and ride. Ashley Handy handled media advising and on-site event day details, and she took all of this amazing footage that you're seeing right now on the videos. The planning department team members who volunteered to stuff bags prior to the event. my marketing team members for all of their support with marketing needs for the weekend, all of the volunteers that participated in the parade and handed out the thousands of branded koozies. I'd like to thank Darden for her continued support in helping to promote the weekend and participating in our video for the Park and Ride last week. And last but definitely not least, I'd like to thank Brad for his support in promoting PSTA's involvement in this event annually and how important it is for PSTA to be a community partner in this big event.
Thank you very much. Any questions, anyone? They only had about 200,000 people there, right? I mean, it was pretty huge.
Yes.
It was exciting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And now we are going to have our awards and recognition. We're recognizing a retiring employee by the name of Larry Longnecker. Mr. Longnecker, would you please come forward and join Brad and I for your award and a photo?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So, as most of you probably know, Larry has been our Human Resources Director for the last 14 years at PSTA, which makes Larry probably the first person that most of us that work at PSTA, including myself, the first person that we met when we came here. And that's a little scary, but that's also he's been a very positive influence. I can still remember my interview and Larry welcoming me to the building for the very first time. As we all know, Larry is a great guy and very positive, and he has just one negative part about him, and that he is a diehard Ohio State football fan. And me being from Pennsylvania, that's been a little bit of a sore spot. And I have never seen such glee on someone's face when he had the facilities guys repaint the little conference room in the HR department gray and red. And he was so gleefully happy to show it off to me. And last but not least, most of you probably have worked in an organization with an HR department, and it's not always the best thing in the world when the HR director comes to your office to talk to you, and that's kind of a scary thing. But Larry, I think because he has a fantastic big family, has always treated PSTA, all of PSTA, sort of as his family. And I have very much relied on him, and I'm so grateful to Larry over the time that I've been here, because he has really helped me. So often HR discussions are not the easiest discussions to have, and Larry always is someone who has brought the tension down, been very sympathetic toward whatever's going on, and he has been a really great asset to all of PSTA, whether it's operations, whether it's the union, whether it's me as the CEO. And so I'm really, really grateful. Larry's off to a well-deserved retirement after a very long career in human resources, including at St. Pete College before he came to PSTA. And I think he's going to be doing some traveling with his very large family that all came to PSTA, and we had a great celebration with them. So with that, we have some nice gifts here. We've got a appreciation plaque for Larry and a beautiful clock. So with that, Larry, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you. Well, Madam Chair, board members, I certainly want to thank you. I certainly have a much greater appreciation and respect, not only for what the PSTA staff has, the challenges, but the dedication that it takes from your part to lead PSTA and the organization for regional transit and the type of innovations that we're going to need for future successes. So I want to thank you. On the staff side, I certainly want to thank all the colleagues, many of which have become friends of mine, and the great team that we have in our HR department. Trish, Claire, Liz, fantastic team to lead us the future direction that Brad wants to go and the board wants to go. They're going to do a fantastic job. James, certainly has been a counterpart here for me and a stronghold to rely on as we move forward with all of the challenges that we're going to face. So I want to thank you again for everything that support-wise that you have given me and the respect that you have given me as well. Thank you so much.
Well, of course, we have a great succession plan at PSTA, so the author of the succession plan, Trish Collins, is our new HR director and will be filling in for Larry.
Congratulations, Trish. You've got big, big shoes to fill. I look forward to working with you. I'm sure we all do. All right, and so now for committee updates, and I understand that the chair of our advisory committee, Gloria Lepic-Corrigan, cannot be here today, so Ms. Cassandra Borgers is going to give the report on her behalf.
Good morning, board members. I am pleased to represent the track today in Gloria's absence. The committee met on June 19th. Thank you again to Board Member Josh Schulman for attending the committee meeting. They really do appreciate your attendance. As a result of the committee's initiatives discussion, Jeff Thompson, our Director of Transportation, Cindy Raskin-Schmidt, our Director of Communications and Marketing, and Raj Singh, our Principal Schedule, presented a presentation to the board about our internal process for managing detours and then how we communicate that to our riders. The committee members were generally pleased with our internal and external communication process, and we're excited to know about the improvements that we have coming with our real-time system that will then turn into better communication with our rider about changes in the system. Bob Lasher, our External Affairs Officer, then gave an overview of our strategic public engagement plan, and he explained how the public engagement team coordinates with the planning department and the marketing department to make sure that the public engagement becomes part of our technical input into the plans and processes that we have here. He talked about how we not only engage folks, but educate and really listen to the riders through this strategic plan, as well as engage numerous internal and external audiences. The use of that strategic framework was then shown by Heather Sobush, talking about our community bus plan and how that is going to change the way that we look at our system here in Pinellas County. The track looks forward to participating in that plan and that process to better shape the future of public transportation. The committee then discussed their Superior Transit Access Recognition, or STAR Award, and their nomination process and the selection process. The TRAC STAR Award designation is designed to recognize the efforts of public and private organizations that have made a significant effort to provide safer and better planned access for public transit riders in Pinellas County. We are very excited that the TRAC will be submitting nomination forms this month. They will select a winner and bring that to you at your next board meeting. The next TRAC meeting will be held on July 17th, and as always, board members are welcome to attend.
Thank you, Cassandra, and welcome back.
Thank
We're
you.
very happy to see you today. All right. And now we will move on to the Forward Pinellas report, which, as your representative on Forward Pinellas, I'm happy to articulate this morning. So the Forward Pinellas Board met on June 13th. Commissioner John Maroney's unfortunate passing has left a vacancy in the chair position. So the board decided in its wisdom to fill our own PSTA board member and Forward Pinellas Vice Chair, Doreen Caudell. Congratulations, I think. It remains to be seen. It's a very large board.
Big shoes to fill, Commissioner.
Absolutely. Another PSTA board member, Commissioner Dave Eggers, became vice chair. Congratulations, Commissioner. And PSTA board member Darden Rice will be the new secretary. These positions will be in place through the end of the year. In November, the board will elect new officers for 2019. Last week, Brad and I joined the Forward Pinellas Executive Director, Whit Blanton, who's in the audience today, when he gave a presentation to the Tourist Development Council on potentially using the tourism development tax for specific transit projects that have a direct benefit and nexus of supporting tourism. The presentation was a start of a very long conversation and a very complicated process, but at least we have begun the discussion, and the best news is no one said no. The Forward Pinellas Board adopted the 2018-19, 2022-23 Transportation Improvement Program, otherwise known as TIP, and amendments to the current TIP. Amendments include adding $2.8 million in federal funds. PSTA has been recently awarded for the Low-No grant for electric buses, as well as other funds for replacing buses. The board received an update on the development of the 2045 Long-Range Transportation Plan. Staff outlined 3 different growth strategies that will be reviewed in the plan, including one strategy that emphasizes transit-focused investment. And now I'm going to give you the report for T-BARTA, which is very exciting. The Tampa Bay Area Regional Transit Authority, the T-BARTA Board, meeting was held on Friday, June 8th at the FDOT District 7 headquarters in Tampa. But we did not have a quorum, so a special meeting was held here at PSTA last Friday, June 22nd, to take action on some very important items. We passed and authorized an interlocal agreement with PSTA for financial management and other expertise to provide the assistance to T-BARTA. It was unanimously approved, and it's an interlocal agreement to receive financial and other assistance for an interim period while T-BARTA transitions to its new leadership. PSTA is offering its significant grant and financial management experience to the limited T-BARTA staff to solidify the agency's financial foundation prior to bringing on a new executive director. The current executive director, Ray Chiamonte, you may have read in the paper, has resigned, and he is running for the county commission in Hillsborough County. On Friday, he tendered his resignation, and the board voted to name T-BARTA planner Michael Case. Michael, I saw you walk in. Why don't you stand up so everybody can see you? There you go. As the interim director. Thank you. And to work with PSTA to advance the finances and plans while a new executive director is recruited. The board plans to conduct interviews in August and hopefully bring a new leader on board this fall. And before I move to the upcoming events, I do want to take just one moment to thank Brad and the PSTA staff, Cassandra Borges and Debbie Wayos, for all of the hard work and effort that they have put into trying to truly place T-BARTA in a good position before we go into the legislative session this next year. And they have accomplished some incredible feats in terms of completing paperwork and dotting I's and crossing T's. And I want to thank them not only for their leadership, but also for the team spirit that shows that for the first time, we really have a coordinated regional effort from several different transit teams and agencies. So, thank you very much. It's very much appreciated. On July 20th at 1 o'clock, important notice, T-BARTA's hosting a Tampa Bay Transit Forum at the Tampa International Airport Marriott Hotel. All PSTA board members are invited to join business community leaders and other political leaders in a program dedicated to the regional transit solutions we've been working on. Senator Bill Galvano, the incoming president of the Senate, has agreed to serve as a keynote speaker, and we're very excited about that opportunity to showcase what we're doing in Tampa Bay and how critical his support will be to this region in the future. I have one more notice.
What was the date again?
Oh, it's July 20th at 1 p.m. July 20th,
Where?
1 p.m., Tampa International Airport. You're all invited. Should be very, very informative. Then, on August 27th, from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m., is the rescheduled Regional Transportation Leadership Workshop on MPO consolidation and coordination at the Epicenter Collaborative Labs right here in Pinellas County at St. Pete College over off of Almerton Road. Now, for those of you that had this on your calendar several weeks ago, you know this will tell you how critically important this meeting is going to be for those of us that work on transportation issues. We rescheduled the meeting because of Commissioner Maroney's funeral. So please make every effort, if you have a love for this issue and a passion, please make every effort to attend. All right. So that's the end of my report, at least for the moment. And now I'd like to have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda if there are no other questions about anything I have just said.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you very much.
Do you want
I'm sorry?
Do we have
Nikki has to read that resolution.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so used to have Alan here
I wouldn't.
punching me in the shoulder. So let's back up just a bit while Nicole reads the resolution 1806 related to the state TD grant. Thank you. Hold on. Where? I've got, yeah.
I don't like throwing elbows.
Okay.
I won't do that.
Thank you.
Resolution number 1806, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority authorizing the execution of a Transportation Disadvantaged Trust Fund grant agreements for 2018-2019 with the Florida Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged. And this is reading of Resolution 1806 by title only.
All right. Now, would you please open the voting system and let's go ahead and vote in the system. No, we have no comment cards, right? That is unanimous approval. Thank you. Okay, now we have a list of action items.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the one action item that you have before you today is to approve an extension to our federal lobbyist contracts with Van Scoyoc Associates. As you know, PSTA contracts with government affairs teams in both Tallahassee and in Washington, D.C. To advance our board's legislative agendas. 3 years ago, PSTA awarded a contract to Van Scoyoc Associates that allowed for 2 additional one-year options after the 3 years. And it's amazing that the 3 years have already gone by. From the beginning, we've been very pleased with the performance of Van Scoyoc and their principals on our contract. Mr. Harry Glenn, who splits time between D.C. and Pinellas County, and Steve Palmer, who is their transportation expert. And we've worked really closely with them over the past 3 years. The PSTA Finance Committee last week unanimously voted to recommend approval of this one-year contract extension and allowing the CEO to execute the second option year as needed. They are a great firm. They have agreed to keep their same price for the option years. And with that, I don't know if the chair of the Finance Committee, Mr. Barkley, would like to say anything further.
Thank you, Brad. Yes, the Finance Committee did meet and unanimously approved the extension for Van Scoyac. I personally have been in D.C. and in Tallahassee, and in both cases, Van Scoyac folks have done a great job. They know the people in these locations, and they advocate for PSTA very efficiently.
All right. Are there any further questions, thoughts, concerns? Anyone? Do you want to share any of the successes that we've had with them, or they'll come back at a later time and share with us?
They'll come back at a later time.
Excellent. All right, now would you?
Second.
Thank you. We've had a motion and a second by Samantha. Is there?
It was me.
Oh, during.
Oh, I'm sorry. You did the second? Okay. Do we have? We
You
have.
held up a sign that said public comment. I wanted to.
All right, we don't have any cards for public comment, so.
We're good.
Is there anyone that would like to speak at this moment about anything? No? Okay. Then may we have the voting card up, please? Thank you. That passed unanimously. Our financial report, please. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
If we've talked about a little bit, as the chairwoman talked about, PSTA is on solid footing. So it's always very pleasant to be able to give a report on how we are doing, not only this year, but as we look forward in the budget to next year, and how we are increasing our reserves as we go forward. As we develop our budget, what we do is we take a look at fiscal 18, forecast that out, to be able to base it for 19. We take a look at some of our challenges that we have and come up with solutions. I'm very pleased to say that for fiscal 18 at this point, we are anticipating a $792,000 surplus that we will be able to add to our reserves that will help us in the coming year. I mean,
Move the mic, there
this
you
way?
go.
Okay.
Good job.
Staff has been very good. They've been able to keep a lot of expenses under budget, as every month, what we do as a management team is we meet with Brad, go over where we're at, and we can see where things are going up over budget. One of the areas has been DART. It's up $1.3 million over the last 2 years. So we'll be talking about that more this morning as one of the areas as our challenges. But I'm very pleased about the $792,000 as we go forward, because it'll be helping us in the coming year. As you can see, we'll have to put a little bit more money to be able to balance next year. 2 key areas in addition is fuel and DART that is causing that slight bit of capital reserves that'll have to go into the budget. Or not capital reserves, but reserves that go into the budget. So our 3 key areas I'm going to be talking about this morning are salaries, diesel fuel, DART, and TD DART. On the salary side, this year in fiscal 18, we tried an experiment as part of a way of saving money. If you recall, last year at this time, we were talking about health insurance going up anywhere from 20 to 40%. So what we thought we would do is reduce the number of operators to help reduce the health insurance cost. It did that, but the cost containment was not what we anticipated with overtime, so we are in a cost containment measure for this year, adding back 4 operators. and we know that the net effect will be very positive to the bottom line. The other area that we're working on, speaking of health insurance, are wellness initiatives. And we're going to be coming up with some very innovative ideas. We're looking for ways to incentivize people to put money into their health savings account. And this is a long-term process, but we are making great strides on how we are reducing our claims not only in this year but going forward. And lastly, we are looking to be able to put some additional staff in to help us with our financial management and cost control. We're looking at 2 accountants and 1 data analyst for our operations division. Fuel. I wish I always had a crystal ball on fuel. And next year we are budgeting at this point in time $2.30 compared to our budget this year, which was $1.73. Matter of fact, as of today, I think last week when I was at the Finance Committee, I mentioned we were about at $1.86 average per gallon. Today we're at $1.79. That's because I locked in more fuel for the summer months, knowing we'd be using more with the air conditioning. So we do have the ability to lock in. But the key thing on a strategic level is that we have our hybrid buses, which are helping to increase our miles per gallon, plus we've ordered not only 2, but now an additional 2 with the Low-No Grant electric buses that will be not using diesel fuel at all. Another area of concern or challenge that we've had is DART. Care Ride, who is our sole provider, has done a superb job of providing service. They've done an excellent job. Matter of fact, ridership has come up significantly. In addition, we have a 3% increase in our contract for this year. One of the things that we can do to help mitigate this is to provide travel training, where you take and basically do individual training with someone on how to ride public transportation, so that maybe we can take people off of the Care Ride and put them on the bus. We also have our innovative solution of the Sandbox Grant, which will be where our passengers will be able to have on-demand service. And we are going to be looking at trying to incentivize Care Ride to have more than 1 person in the van. Currently, it's a door-to-door trip with 1 person in there. So there may be ways to save costs by doing that. And of course, we want to make sure we're doing very strict eligibility requirements and managing that piece of it. So we have done quite a bit this year to be able to improve things going forward. Matter of fact, last year I said we'd be balanced through 2021. We still are, but as you can see, we have actually tripled our reserves for 2021, and we've cut our deficit in half in 2022. So I want to say thank you to the board for that. Big reason is we were able to order buses for both fiscal year 18 and 19 ahead of schedule. That saved us a significant amount of money. And we also, of course, the property values have gone up, so that is increasing our property tax revenue for next year. Some of our challenges, we expect to lose $2 million with the homestead exemption, assuming it's passed. And of course, we've talked a little bit today about DART and fuel costs. And Heather will be talking next about the community bus plan. I think that's an important long-term solution as we find avenues for increasing revenue and decreasing costs. So what is our focus for next year? Our focus is fuel efficiency, controlling our paratransit costs, and our big project out of our $48.1 million capital budget, of course, is our Central Avenue BRT. And we don't want to forget all the new technologies that are coming forward that we'll be looking at with AV solutions, and who knows what else in the future. Are there any questions?
Questions, Board? Commissioner Eggers?
Thank you. Yeah, I was looking at page 3 again, which talked about a transfer from reserves in 2019. So I was just trying to equate that reserve account to the one on page 8 that talks about an increasing reserve balance in the 2021 timeframe. So just if you could draw that correlation.
Certainly. We have a reserve balance right now of about $26 million.
26.
About $26 million. And included in there is what we'll be adding into from this fiscal year. And we will be pulling from that the $1.8 million. But overall, as we look going forward, when we take a look at what we're doing both on the operations and the capital side, because we did save significant amount of money with our bus purchases, we will actually be increasing what we had anticipated to have in the, I'll call it the cookie jar at the end of 2021. So let me just go ahead to that slide. So initially last year when I spoke to you, I said we anticipated $1.4 million. Now we're at 4.5.
Again, I'm sorry, you talked about having a reserve balance of $26 million. I just, for clarity's sake, for me, how does that, what is that compared to the reserve balance here of 4.5 million?
That is where we'll be at that point in time out in the end of 2021.
So you're saying the 26 million we have now will be at 4.5 million?
That's correct. We'll be using money for buses. We'll be using money for the Central Avenue BRT as well. And of course, we're always looking for grants to be able to help mitigate that.
Okay, so the improvement is not, we're having a dramatic decrease in reserves, but the improvement is what it was forecasted a year ago versus
That is correct.
Okay.
Because of the steps that the board took to help
Thank
us
you.
out.
Anyone else? Commissioners? Commissioner Banter?
Yes, is there a minimal that we keep in reserves per, I'm not sure if we have a charter or something that dictates that, like in Tarpon, it's 20%. So what's our minimal for reserves here?
Actually, the reserve balance I spoke about does not include our 2 months reserve that we also keep for operations.
Okay.
And we also have a reserve that is used for any of our insurance claims.
Okay.
So this is just,
I didn't hear the last of what you just said.
so we have a reserve, a 2-month reserve for operations. That's not included in that 26 million. Plus, we have a reserve for our insurance claims.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, I have, it probably begs for a larger conversation, but in your budget planning, I think I heard you say it included purchase of new buses and implementation of everything that's on the drawing board right now. My question is, don't you think that that will change dramatically over the next 2 years, let's say, just because of the way transit agencies are changing to mobility integrators? I'm still trying to wrap my head around what that really means, and I haven't gotten a really good answer. So, do you know?
Well, I think right now the money that we have set aside is for providing, I will say, mobility, because it isn't just buses anymore. Look at PSTA. We provide Uber, Lyft, different things with our Sandbox grant. It's technology that allows people to use our services like Care Ride in a different manner. So the money that we have set aside in the budget is for buses. It can be used for a lot of different things. We have money for, it doesn't matter what the technology is. So I think we've left some room for being visionary.
And that would be, in my opinion, very, very important, because in being visionary, we also get to be creative in terms of funding sources and different grants that are available for visionary thinkers and creativity. So I think there are so many, and we're going to have a few of them come make presentations here of new kinds of technologies that are right on the cusp of being implemented all over the country. So I look forward to those discussions. It's really an exciting time to be working on the issue, I think. Anyone else? There was a hand here. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Debbie, for the presentation. What do our reserves look like in 2022? I mean, they're certainly looking better in 2021 than we thought, but is there a point that we go into the red in reserves?
2022.
2022. And what does that look like then, do you know?
That is looking at right now from a $9.8 million deficit, we've reduced it down to a 4.8. So the more ways we can find to improve things between now and then, as you can see, we make leaps and bounds either through competitive grants that we're getting and also by cost efficiencies.
One other question.
Commissioner Eggers?
Please,
Oh, are you
Thank you.
done, Commissioner
Oh, yes,
Scott?
thank you.
Sorry about
Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, just so I know,
Did you turn your, oh,
yeah, thank you.
okay, there you go.
Salaries for the total salary structure, 1%. What does that equal to in dollars for the total salary, and what does it equal in the non-union salary?
I don't have the breakout right with me on the what's union versus non-union, but our salaries are usually around 62% of our budget.
So 1% increase is equal to what? I'd like to have, let's
Yeah,
not do it
I
today,
will
but
get
I'd
that
like
to
to
you.
have that information as
Sure.
well as the breakout for union versus non-union salaries.
Yeah, and right now, just so you know, we're in union negotiations,
Right.
so always intriguing.
So you can get that information.
Oh, yes,
to
I might even
Commissioner
have it
Eggers,
floating
right,
around in here.
Debbie?
Mhm.
Okay,
I'll be happy to do that.
great. Anybody else? Commissioner Schulman? Commissioner,
I actually have an
Bennett?
answer, and I also have an answer.
right now?
Right now.
Oh, well, terrific, what is it?
On the total salaries, we're looking at, for the proposed budget, $33 million. And what I can do is break out what is union versus non-union for you on a verbal basis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wheeler-Brown?
No comments. But I do, at the end, I have some comments before I leave, though.
All right, Commissioner
I
Gerard?
want to share an email I received.
The finance chair? No? Commissioner Caudill? No? Commissioner Tornga? I have no questions. Samantha? Wow. Brad?
So as you're probably experiencing in those of you who are in your cities or the county, we'll be talking about the budget for the next several months. Next month there'll be an action item for you to approve of the trim notice on the ad valorem levy that PSTA levies, and then we'll probably also focus and have an action item to approve and have a discussion, I'm sure, about the health insurance and the other benefits that PSTA provides to its employees. Then, we're gonna keep working on this budget over the next several months. Hopefully, we'll be watching the diesel fuel prices every single day, and hopefully that number will not go up further, and then present to you a final budget for voting on in September.
So, fine.
Commissioner
I'm
Eggers?
sorry.
That's good.
I
Thank you.
apologize. Yeah, again, first of all, I appreciate all the work that's gone into getting the budget together. And I am growingly, as I've been over the years, concerned about where we're heading. I know it sounds better today than it did a year ago, but again, we're using 8% growth in property tax values, I believe. Is that what is in this budget, 8.3, or what is it?
I think so.
Yeah, and so, and with no obvious ability to raise millage anymore, I just think we ought to be, thinking in these budget along the lines of a 4 or 5% use and see what that does, because as we go out in the years ahead, I think this is something we're gonna have to continue, and it's gonna only compound and get worse. Obviously, we're trying to get grant money for purchases of the bus and the capital side, but on the operating side, this is about as good as it gets with an 8% increase. So just concerned about the budget that's being presented today. So I know we'll have some more discussions.
Thank you.
In the month ahead. Thank you.
Commissioner Banvo?
Yes, thank you. Brad, what is the projected loss again for the homestead exemption for us?
It's about $2 million. And we've already assumed that will pass and then that will be implemented when we're making these projections out and beyond that, that Debbie's talking about.
So that loss is included in these conversations?
Yes, it
projections,
is.
The
Yes.
numbers, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I do echo the concerns of Commissioner Eggers in the sense that, we have to find a way, since, usually you grow your way out of a problem, you don't save your way out of a problem, but we're not a city, we're a transit authority, so I'm not really sure how we would grow our way out of a financial problem. But we need to do all that we can to make sure that, we're here long-term, and, there will be another financial downfall, of course, and property values won't always raise 8%, and I just encourage that, anything we can do to cut, which I know staff is doing, and we're between a rock and a hard place, but I think we do need to start taking a serious look at the reserve fund and projections further out, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that we're here in 10 years in the same mode that we're here now and offering the same services the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioner Schulman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The growth rate in the property tax, that was the number given to us by property appraiser?
Yes.
Okay, and that's also not the number that goes out 2020, 2021, 2022. Do you know what those numbers are
No,
for the few subsequent years?
We provided that in the key assumptions, so we don't have it going up. We actually go off what the county is predicting, which is decreasing over time, what the increase would be. So I think to your point, Commissioner Eggers, it won't always be at this wonderful % increase. And we look at what the county is saying it will be, and we work with that.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, we do.
Anyone else? Anybody? I just have a comment that I want to make in response to some of the discussion that we've had on the board this morning, to just ask you to keep in mind that public transportation nationwide and worldwide is not something that you grow out of in terms of how it gets funded. It's another one of those quality of life issues that governmental entities provide for their citizens, similar to how they provide for public safety and education. Transportation is right in those pillars of those essential funding streams that those of us that have worked in different levels of government try to provide for to enhance the quality of life that we all have come to so enjoy. So I don't know that we will ever grow our way out of the issues with regard to funding. And there are an awful lot of transit agency, I call them fiefdoms, because they all pull down federal and state dollars. And in an effort to try and consolidate some of them, I think that we have a better opportunity to get a bigger bang for the buck. And so for a couple of years now, that has been my major focus, is to try to figure out a way how, instead of spreading the dollars out through so many various sources, we can funnel them to actually getting the folks moved around, which I think is what our citizens would like to see us do. Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I understand your comment about growing our way out of it, but I certainly am hoping, with all the work that we're doing right now, and laying the groundwork for growth in ridership, because that is really where, if we're at 1.5% of our population using transit right now, that's an area that's critical, especially in the growth in premium ridership, and whether it's to the airport, whether it's whatever the services that we come up with. So I'm not really too excited about staying on a board where we don't have that plan, and I know we all are hoping for that. So that's the growth that I do think we can hope for and continue working for. I know that staff is, going out of their way to make sure that the 3 and 5 years down the road, we're in a different place financially. But I think it all The only thing we really have to go on is that our dream of a bus that is used, or a system that is used by more people, is actualized. So that's the growth area I think we have an opportunity to make a big difference in. So I think that should be our real, every year we should be looking at those ridership numbers. So anyway, just a comment, thank you.
You're welcome. And to your point, Commissioner Eggers, just imagine, part of the reason why the ridership is the way it is because our system doesn't provide efficiency. Like if I want to take it to work, it doesn't run often enough. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't come back at the end of the day the way we all think of public transportation options. So the better we get at providing efficiency so that citizens can rely on it more, I think the ridership will grow. So, and to that, I just want to say, don't miss the next few PSTA meetings. We've got some incredible presentations on the drawing board, don't we, Brad?
We do. We
Okay.
do.
Thank you.
Including right now.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Debbie, very, very much. Now, do we need to, we don't need to vote on that, right, her presentation?
Right.
Okay, good.
Next page.
Yeah. All right, Heather, so there you are.
Hi. Good
You
morning.
always have the most exciting things to say.
Thank you. So this today is an information item on to update you on our community bus plan, which is in progress. This bus plan process gives us a way to look at how our entire system,
Much better.
sorry, at how our entire system is functioning. By talking with riders, other stakeholders, and by analyzing a lot of data, we're able to develop recommendations that to improve not only individual routes, but our system overall, and looking at different funding scenarios. We're about 1/3 into the schedule and have conducted quite a lot of public outreach and data analysis already. We will have preliminary recommendations to you all and to present to the public in the fall, and then final recommendations in the November-December timeframe. We last did this kind of analysis about 5 years ago, and so we know that since then a lot of things have changed. We've had some population increases here in Pinellas, there's changing ridership trends. We also have had advancements in technologies that we've been experimenting with. And then we have some changes we're anticipating in the upcoming years. More technology advances, our first BRT coming online. And so these changes give us an opportunity to look at how we can improve and build upon them to improve services. The goals for any of the recommendations coming out of this bus plan, and many of this you just spoke about, are to build transit constituency, and this is to not only provide improved services for new riders, but also improve services that our existing riders that allow our existing riders to take more trips on our transit network. We want to improve our competitiveness, so look at how we can improve our travel times, our reliability, and then our frequency and span of service. And then, of course, build financial sustainability, so looking at maximizing our transit investments while also seeking new funding and partnerships. As shown here, we are analyzing many data sets, including new data on our innovative projects. We've already received some very interesting results from our onboard survey that was conducted in March, and are looking forward to a 2-day internal workshop with our consultants very soon, in the next few weeks in early July, where we're going to review the rest of the data analysis and then also work through some of those preliminary recommendations. The scope also includes looking at some case studies on system redesigns that have been conducted by other agencies. In the last few years, dozens of agencies across the country, this is just a sample, have implemented system redesigns that are focused on investing or reinvesting their resources into high-frequency core network on corridors where transit performs best, so where the demographics and employment and land use is supportive of transit. So many of these agencies, by doing this, have been able to improve ridership during a period when other agencies like ours were experiencing some decline. So we had similar recommendations about 5 years ago, but as we know, the environment was different. change is hard for our riders, so people do come out to speak against it. So we didn't really implement a lot of the recommendations back then. But since the environment has changed and we have seen some of these other agencies make these changes and have success, we're going to use these case studies to look at how they implemented the changes, how they talked with the public, and what the results were.
Question.
Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, thank you. Real quickly, I'm sorry, under the case studies, when you see something like 70% frequent and 30% coverage, what do they mean by that?
So they mean more frequent services. So bus routes operating, say, at 15 minutes or better. So buses coming 15 minutes or better versus kind of those coverage type services where buses are only coming every 60 minutes and that are in areas that aren't as supportive of transit.
So are they saying like this GRTC group is, their budget is 70% built around frequency and 30%, or that's the mix?
That's the mix of their like revenue hours of service that go into the different routes. So like right now, 50% of our service is on higher frequency corridors, so our core network, and 50% is on kind of our supporting local network.
Okay, thank you.
So public outreach is obviously a very important part of this effort. I'm pleased to say that our public outreach team here at PSTA, led by Bob Lasher, is leading this public outreach effort. And so they've developed a plan for the appropriate strategies to reach all of the different markets that we need, that are important to us, or for us to be talking to. In terms of the outreach schedule, we've already conducted the onboard survey. We've had 8 focus groups with PSTA operators, supervisors, and customer service representatives to really hear what they hear from the public that they talk to every day. We are out there talking to riders right now. In fact, Juan and Nicole are at Pinellas Park as we speak, talking with our riders. They'll be out at Countryside Mall tomorrow. I'll be at a Drew Street Public Workshop on Thursday. So we're trying to create our own opportunities at our terminals, but also capitalize on other efforts by the MPO and local jurisdictions where we can go reach the public. So with that said, if any of you all know of specific, we're speaking with your city staff, but with any specific opportunities in your community, we're happy to come talk with the public there. The public outreach is integrated into our overall schedule. One thing that's new this time is that we are co-branding our effort with Forward Pinellas. And so the bus plan, PSTA's major update to our transit development plan next year, and the MPO's 2045 long-range transportation plan will all be co-branded together. That way, as we're talking with the public, they're just seeing one transportation plan that includes all modes. It's also important because our bus plan recommendations and any implementation plans will be incorporated directly into our major transit development plan update, which is due September 2019, and Forward Pinellas' 2045 long-range transportation plan due to be adopted in December of 2019. So we've purposefully set this schedule to feed into all of these processes. And with that, I'll turn it over to the chair for any questions.
Questions, members? Any questions? Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Heather.
Pressure.
Sorry. Just curious, just to follow up to Commissioner Eggers' question on the route frequency. We're 50-50 today, and there's some examples in here from 80-20, 70-30. Do we have an idea of where we think we're going with that?
I would not say that's determined yet. That's something we'll continue to talk with you all about. And I think with all these agencies, they'd had conversations about what was the appropriate mix of services. We will be looking at how some of our programs like Direct Connect, which now has expanded to 24 locations, can we modify that service so that's more of an alternative for more people to get into our core network. So we'll be kind of looking at a lot of different scenarios.
So still very much a work in progress.
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anyone else? Who? What?
Yeah. So I'd like to thank Heather for all of her work on this community bus plan. This is very important. It ties, as Debbie mentioned, right into our budget and what we're looking for in the long-term future. As the board, Commissioner Eggers and others have noted, we are constantly looking at our ridership and looking at ways to increase ridership on all of our systems. And as Heather notes, these systems that have gone through this kind of redesign of their system, having more frequent routes, have seen increases in ridership. The systems that have concentrated on having low frequency, buses coming every hour across their whole system, are seeing decreases in ridership. So that's one key component to what we're looking for in the future. More riders means more revenue, which means better things for PSTA. But as those of you who've been on the board for a while know, as Heather mentioned, every time we change a route, we have a public, we're required to have a public comment. And they often come to the PSTA board meetings and stand right there where Heather's standing, and then sometimes it's difficult for the board and us to be able to make changes. We think we have an opportunity now that we didn't have 5 years ago, in that we have new programs like Direct Connect and partnerships that neighborhoods and areas that maybe don't have bus service can still get to the bus, get to a high frequency line through another mode. In addition, so that's one of the key features that she's working very hard on, is coming up with a really good plan that we can increase frequency on some of our highest ridership routes. The other key component to increasing ridership that many of these transit systems have done across the country that are seeing increases in riderships, they've infused more revenue into their program, adding service on the high frequency routes. And that will, as we've just discussed, take partnerships. Partnerships either by getting additional grants, looking at additional revenue sources, partnering with the cities like we have done very thankfully with Clearwater and Dunedin and St. Petersburg for different services. But it'll take a lot of partnerships to add revenue, whether it's through tourist-oriented services or who knows what in the future. We're constantly trying to look for ways in which we can, as Commissioner Long has discussed, increase mobility in our community, either through these partnerships, through these new technologies, and more frequency on the routes. So it's kind of been going on in the background. We've been getting a lot of good public input, but this is going to come, it's going to be a very important part of our future with a vote to implement this service, and hopefully a different outcome than we had 5 years ago. With that.
Is that it? Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Bob, do you want to come forward and share your information? Bob Lasher.
Great.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, Bob Lasher, External Affairs Officer. I have your favorite information item of the day because it's the last one. This brief 126-slide presentation is going to take you through our strategic outreach plan. Yes, I'm kidding. I'll make this brief. We have an outreach team here that really wears a lot of hats, and it's fun to be a part of. We've put this together just like we put together our path forward, our strategic marketing plan. This is a living, dynamic document that exists and really bridges marketing and planning. Planning, like what you just heard from Heather, we'll put together some projects like our community bus plan right now. So now Juana's out, as we speak, gathering information. We go out and we're their ears. We are using this bus plan. We're going to be out there listening to as many people as we possibly can as to what they want as far as this bus plan from their transit system. So in that way, we're out there listening. But last week, when we had our service change, we're out there weeks in advance with our CSRs, with our drivers, with the community saying, okay, we've got this change coming up. This is what's going to happen on this particular day. And then on the days of the change, we're out there at the terminals or places where we can get the most riders who will be affected to let them know what's going on, to make sure that things move smoothly when we put changes in. And then marketing will have some of their campaigns going, and they will be sending us their messaging, and we'll work with them from what we're hearing to push the messaging out. It's a team of 3, Nicole Dufa, Juan, and myself, and we do have our regular baseline duties. This is an overarching document which you have access to that keeps us focused, maximizes our efforts, and how we log our data. But we also have the baseline duties that we've been working on for years, such as our general engagement. When we go out to community events, we'll be at a table handing out new information. The rider ambassadors, as I mentioned, when we have service changes, are also the internal ambassadors, our community and government relations. And we also, this year, had some staff that we brought in for our spring break park and ride. When we were out there, wonderfully successful, we actually brought in some people to help us on weekends to hold signs on Court Street to direct people to the park and rides. And one of the overarching parts of this strategic plan is flexibility, because things always change. We're innovative at PSTA, and if you're not flexible, you're not innovative. And what we learned with our park and ride when we were out doing surveys is that we really needed staff at the return trip stop out on the beach to help people get on the right trolleys, because there were 4 different lines going through there. And it was really busy. It was fun. It was great to work with these people, but there were a lot of crowded trolleys, and people they needed to know where they wanted to go, whether they're going to Tarpon Springs, going back downtown, they wanted to go to the Marine Aquarium. So between our staff and transportation and the supervisors, thank you, Jeff, he might have left, we had people out there every day handling these crowds, and it was a lot of fun to see. But that's part of the flexibility. And along with that are our ongoing target markets. Seniors are very big for us. I don't know if you remember, a few years ago we worked with AARP, and they say it's 2 to 4 times as expensive for someone to move into assisted living than to age in place. We want to get out there and help them age in place and show them with Direct Connect and our services that maybe because they're not driving, they don't have to move just yet. We want to help them with these services. That's why we have things like Direct Connect and some of the other partners out there like Neighborly to get them around. Of course, we like to foster future riders with our students. And then we have our stakeholders, our government partners, our civic community partners, the agencies we work with. A lot of you see us out there. And a big one is the non-riders. Because I've heard it for more than 13 years. Well, I don't use PSTA because I drive. Well, when you're giving 40 to 50,000 rides a day on a weekday, if you drive, we're keeping a lot of people out of your way. And I like to remind people of that. That's where their tax dollars are going. And we also want their input. What will get them on the bus? What do they want out of their system so we can get some new riders on there? So this plan that we have in place is to help keep us focused, to help keep us on our goals, and to help make sure that we are documenting all of the data we are getting, all of the listening we're doing, and so that we can bring things back to our marketing and planning departments and maximize all of our efforts across the board. And it's fun. We were out last week at the first day for the 300X, new 300X. One of the riders came up and they had a problem with a stop. It was documented, we put it in. Next day he was at the track meeting, we had an answer for him, and it was taken care of. Those are the types of little things that mean a lot to our riders. The goals of the plan, we want to improve the existing services, get more riders out there. We, of course, promote any initiatives that are coming up, and we have a lot of them. A little thing called the BRT is going to have us very, very busy pretty soon. We're looking forward to that. We want to build trust, work with the community, and prove our value. Remind them, hey, this is what we do. This is how we help you. Cultivate extra relationships. We've been able to build new partnerships. We think we've got some exciting ones coming down the road from Tarpon Springs as well, along with some of the others, with new partnerships and ways to introduce some new services and funding. And helping with the messaging and building our stature in the community. And as I said, the whole idea for us is to really be flexible and to step in where is ever needed. Now, in this plan are our key focuses, and you've seen senior and student. Those are pretty much always top. Right now, we're doing a lot of surveys. We were surveying the 100X. We were surveying on the 300X. When we look at new routes, we'll be out there on the buses surveying. And in the past, we used to farm a lot of that out to our subcontractors, and that's really expensive. And it takes a lot of planning. By bringing this in-house, it's not only cheaper, but we have a lot more flexibility. So if Cindy comes to us from marketing and says, you know what, can you get us a quick survey on the 100X? We can turn that around in a day or two and be out there surveying riders, which we did. If we rely on contractors, we can't do that. Well, if you want to really pay, I guess you can do it that quickly, but we can do it a lot more easily in-house. It also gives us the chance to interact with the public that you don't always get with advertising, because we've seen it. You can really put out an advertising campaign in every which way, you're still going to miss a lot of the public. This gives us a chance to get out, talk to them face to face, and a lot of the times they will tell us things that they will not go online and tell us. They're not going to pick up a phone and tell us. So it's a new avenue that lets people talk to PSTA, gives them a face to talk to, and kind of puts their guard down, and we can really get what they really want, whereas they might not do so if we said, yeah, just give us a call or send us a comment via email. And then the big projects, spring break we just wrapped up. We're doing the community bus plan right now, also working on a survey that we'll send out electronically, not just from here, but we'll ask all of our partners across the county to pass it along to their constituents, their residents, the homeowners associations, the cities, so that we can try to get everybody's input for this bus plan. And then, of course, the BRT is the big one coming up. We have a large toolbox, and as technology advances, the toolbox keeps getting larger, and we will select from these tools depending upon the task at hand. And that's pretty much our outreach team. Any questions?
Commissioner Eggers, questions?
I'll get.
Oh, Commissioner Connell, sorry, I didn't see your mic.
Yes, ma'am.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the Route 100X, are we seeing, or can you update me on when we will see perhaps a Saturday, Sunday, and/or special event or holiday schedule?
For my money, as soon as possible.
Okay.
Actually, I don't have that when we will have Saturday and Sunday on that. I don't know if there's a target date for that yet.
I know it's a
growing
highly sought after
Yes.
improvement to that.
And 300X too, they're all,
Oh, the 300 is going to do the same thing, of
Mhm.
course, once it gets started.
Yeah.
Especially some of the plans that are going to be rolled out. It's exciting times.
it is. And I've gotten this request ever since I started here, I think back in 2005, and it's nice to see we're finally being able to have it come true. Even when my first day when I interviewed, I was actually living in New Jersey. I called down and they said, oh, we'll have someone pick you up at the airport. I said, no, I'll take a bus. And there was a very long silence on the phone. And then they said, well, we don't have a bus to the airport. So it's time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Eggers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, great presentation,
Thank you.
Bob. And I really wanted to commend you personally, because I've seen you everywhere. A lot of government affairs meetings in different chambers, so thank you for that work. And I do think this is kind of it's almost like a cultural change for our residents that live in the area, moving that ship, so to speak, towards public transportation in whatever regard it is. And it does take time. The advertising, the marketing is all important, but that, as you say, that kind of goes at that 20,000-foot kind of view. But I think you've got to get in the trenches and you have to start really talking to folks specifically about how they connect.
Yes.
Because there are folks that they're in retirement homes, they're in their own home, and they want to be able to get out more than the retirement home's bus that takes them to the grocery store and back, and they have no clue on how to connect. And you can do all you want on here, but they need somebody to come hold their hand through the process. And I just think it takes a lot of effort, in the trench effort, and I just really commend that part of what you all are doing.
Thank you.
Keep it up. It takes time.
It takes time, and there's such a demand out there. We could probably have a staff of 20 and keep them busy. I know that's not feasible. I'm not asking for that, just.
Yet.
But yeah, there is no shortage of work for this staff, and we are enjoying it.
Whether it's a service at a time, a rider at a time, an organization at a time, those little victories along the way, we got to keep at it. But
And your help makes a big difference, because you're out there doing the same, all of you. It really does make a big difference. You're the community influencers. People listen to you, and it helps. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Mr. Miller.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. And I just want to express my thanks to Commissioner Eggers, because I asked Bob to give this presentation to the board based on a lot of comments that you made over the last several years about making sure that we have a commitment to communicating to our residents, to the community. And Bob and his staff are out there all the time, as he's describing. I know that there's no possible way that, despite Bob's ubiquitous presence in every possible community, that we're going to talk to 1 million people in Pinellas County. But like you just said, Commissioner, talking to one rider or getting one by one riders, solving their problems, the face-to-face contact is a huge component to, like you say, changing the culture. And I just want to thank you for pushing us to this and helping us develop this. It's a very important program that we're constantly out there in the community talking to residents. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, anyone else on the board? Any other comments? Bob, that was really a terrific
Thank you.
presentation. I hope you'll come back and keep us updated.
Absolutely.
And especially on our new 300X to the airport.
Yes, we're all excited to see where that goes, because it's been a long time coming, and so much of the public is really excited about it.
And I've got some great ideas about how we may be able to market that a little bit through maybe TDC, for example.
Yes.
That's their job, to market, so letting people know about it would be critical.
And I hear they have a decent budget for that, too.
Yeah, they do. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you very much. All right, thank you. Brad, do you want to give us some updates on future meetings and presentations?
So first, in your packet is our monthly performance statistics. And I noticed that I would like to highlight something that we've been talking about in the item called performance updates. There is a listing of the ridership that we get on our innovative programs, our partnerships, our first mile, last mile partnerships with Uber and Lyft, our new programs on Sandbox. And I noted that we're up to, in the month of May, we had 7,000 rides on our innovative programs. And I've noticed in working and developing with Debbie on the budget for the next year, an increasing proportion of our budget is on these innovative programs, TD Late Shift and Direct Connect. These are becoming part of PSTA's mainline service of providing mobility. So to Commissioner Long's comments about us becoming more than just a bus company, our budget is reflecting that, and the ridership is reflecting that now. Now, unfortunately, those rides, those 7,000 rides, don't count toward our official ridership that the FTA requires us to tabulate. But they are going to continue to be a bigger and bigger portion of what we're trying to do at PSTA, provide mobility to our Pinellas County residents.
Excuse me just a moment. Did I hear you say that we cannot count those rides?
Of course, we're tracking those rides and we're counting them on this within PSTA, but unfortunately, no. The federal rules that govern all the formulas that generate funding for PSTA and for others don't allow us to count rides on Uber and Lyft the way we count rides on our buses and trolleys.
Okay, I have a big problem with that. I hope everyone else on this board has a big problem with that as well. Clearly, there is a disconnect between what the leaders at the FTA and the rule makers are saying, because I heard at that conference, that APTA conference, from the Assistant Secretary that I wrote it down on my phone. Transit agencies are, in the future, going to be mobility integrators. So I'm sorry, if I have just now learned the definition of mobility, and that is what we are doing, then the rules are outdated. And I hope that as soon as this meeting is over with, you will give instructions to Van Scoyoc to go forth and get those rules changed and update to 2018. We're way behind the rules are not keeping up with what's happening in the real world, Brad. I'm going to ask for a vote on that. I think it's critical. Commissioner Caudill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To echo and add to that direction, Brad, and you're right, Madam Chair, is the all modes of transit going through a transit agency, including bike tracking. And of course, we know bike share programs such as the ones that are in Hillsborough and the pilot that's in St. Pete are being tracked through a GPS tracking device, which also shows, you know, we already have heard from FDOT that we're going to be doing a same treatment on Howard, Franklin, and Gandy that we have on 60 currently with bike path and trail. So I agree with you, Commissioner. We have to make sure that that voice is heard on omnimodal, all modes of transit. So pedestrian and bike is also important to the count.
I saw some hands down here. Did anyone else have anything to add? Commissioner Banter.
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman. Yeah, you stole the words out of my mouth when I first just launched this to look at it. I wondered if this included the Uber and Lyft and other rides we do, and then Brad mentioned that it did not, and you followed up, and I agree with you 100%. And we should direct our lobbyists for how much we're paying. That's resolved. I understand we have to report the statistics in a certain way for federal funding. But I think we should have on this report an internal number that shows, you know, are we up or down, including all modes of transit? Because that's just ridiculous. We're not, you know, a bus authority. We're a transit authority. That includes all forms of transit that members on this board long before me have worked very hard to establish. So we're not viewing accurate numbers when we see down 4.9% from May last year, or June rather, and then down 5.9% year to date. That's not accurate if you count people transitioning from riding buses to doing other forms of transit. So regardless of what we have to report to the federal government, which that's ridiculous, I think we need our own internal number with this sheet as well, so we see a true accurate number for what our ridership is. That would go a long way in our discussions and our planning. And I agree 100%, we need to direct our lobbyists to get that changed, because that's just absolutely archaic. Thank you.
Which is why instead of saying lobbyists, I like to use the word advocates, because they're doing more than lobbying. What they're doing is educating. And clearly, this is a disconnect. And so with that said, I'd like to direct the staff, if I might, Brad, please, to make a note of this for our legislative agenda next time we meet, because I think it's important to educate our congressional folks as well as those folks in the Senate of the disconnect as well. Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that, and I totally agree. If these forms of transportation are within our system, we should be tracking them anyway.
And
right?
receiving funds.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like the Uber and Lyft folks in other communities may not be part of their transit system. They're part of it, but they're not part of the system that we've put in place, which gives you that first mile, last mile. So right. Those absolutely should be included. That undermines the effort that we're trying to make about being beyond buses. It's other things too. So I would agree with that. I'm not quite sure I understood some of Councilmember Caudill was talking about the omnimodal. I'm not sure how that plays into it, and I'd like to know more about it, but I'd like to track those numbers if we can. I know you track the folks that are bringing bikes onto our system. Yeah. Is that what you were talking about?
Well, not just the bikes on.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Please push your mic.
I just want to make sure I'm clear on what parts you're talking about, so whether they should or shouldn't be included as far as federal funding versus us tracking for our information.
I think, and Commissioner, to Madam Chair.
Yes.
To further amplify my comments would be that as the agency begins to continue to do the transit models, whether it's bike share, tracking, because that is a pilot program right now in St. Pete, but in the future could be a potential Pinellas County project where we roll that out throughout the entire county. we're going to see more people using the trail to get back and forth to work. So as we use a bike share component, we can track the use of that. The other would be water transit. We have expansions of water transit in the intercoastal, where we're taking the current Clearwater water transit and expanding it to Dunedin, and there's some talk of expanding it also south and further north. So tracking all modes of transit in order for the federal level and the state level to understand that we're using all modes of transit to move our people around.
Okay. Yeah,
So that would be the avenue to go and the direction to go down.
And that I appreciate. I was just trying to, how that connection was made to us trying to get more funds for PSTA.
That's exactly how, we would be looking at Tiger, especially the Tiger Grant program in DC would be an opportunity for us to continue to improve the trail, for instance. The trail needs improvements along the corridor, such as just funding for repairs or for landscaping or for cultural corridor, lighting.
So whether it's transit for PSTA or transportation through MPO.
Exactly.
That's what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fine. Good. Thank you.
So I want to commend you, Commissioner Caudell, for bringing up the words water transit, because clearly this is where we miss Commissioner Rice, since the city of St. Petersburg got a pretty healthy grant from the feds for their water transit ferry service from downtown St. Pete over to Tampa. So that's a mess. You've got to get them to straighten that out. With that said, Commissioner Banther?
Yes, sorry, real quick, Brad. So would it be possible for the next meeting to have? I know we got to report these numbers, but next to it a box with our ridership that reflects all transit forms that we do.
Yes, I think we can. Well, we can certainly do that for ourselves. And to your point, I mean, this has been on top of our legislative agenda. And our folks with Van Scoyoc are working hard to try to change the rules. Unfortunately, it will take an act of Congress to change the rules on the way we count ridership. And there's a lot of folks, we've sort of got the balls rolling with our programs, but now there's a lot of folks that are working on this.
I understand, but we can report and not buried in stats, but like in like a box like we have now, where it says total ridership. We can have our own there too that shows all modes, so we know as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can try to make that change.
All right, thank you.
All right, anyone else on this issue? Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hey, Brad, just to make sure I understand the numbers here. So if I look at like the year-to-date, we're looking at the Direct Connect pilot and the TD late shift. Those are the numbers that we're not being able to report?
Right.
So 48,000 rides a year?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay. But, I mean, they came to or from a bus. So we got them on the bus, right? But we're missing that portion of it to get them to or from the bus.
Not for late.
That's the piece of it we're missing?
Well, that's right. I mean, so they did they presumably rode the bus at least one way on the TD late shift, and they rode, all those Direct Connect folks rode the bus. So we're counting those bus rides. We're just not counting their rides to and from.
Got it, okay. Well, if I look at making sure I'm looking at the right numbers, we're down year-to-date about 519,000 rides, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So adding those in, we're down about 472,000 rides. So we certainly want them added in, but it's not the holy grail for us. We still have a lot of work.
Not yet, but it's
It could
growing. It's growing.
It will be
And
eventually.
it will grow. It will grow. I just want to, keep it in perspective, that's all. Where it is today, where it could be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And now we're back to the conversation, I think it was Commissioner Banther that stated, this is how we grow our way out of the deficit. Right?
Yeah.
It's how you make lemonade out of lemons, or however that saying goes. Okay, moving on. Brad, do you want to talk about the Flamingo update?
Perhaps in the interest of time, I'll just ask you to take a look at that. We are moving successfully forward. We had a great discussion with our track committee. Lots of the track rider committee is volunteering to pilot our new Flamingo Fares roll out. Myself, I am a tester of the Flamingo Fares with my little smart card, and I've been using it quite frequently and having interesting things pop up where I'll get on the bus and I'll proudly wave my Flamingo card in front of the reader, and it'll say rejected. And it's very personally upsetting to me. But then, so I send off a flurry of emails, oh my gosh, the system's broken. And then they're like, well, Brad, it's your fault because you didn't, there's no money on the card anymore. But the Flamingo program is a smart card program, and then it also will be an app on your phone where you can load on money and then ride PSTA, HART, and other transit systems around the Tampa Bay area. It's going to be implemented over time, but ultimately it's going to be a major shift for our riders in that we're changing the way they pay for riding the bus. Instead of buying different kinds of passes, paper passes, mag stripe passes that they have to keep track of and swipe, they'll have these plastic cards or even a phone app to ride. It has the ability, of course, now that we can track who's riding, and it has a lot more data capabilities. All of our transportation disadvantage passes that people use, all of our different programs with the hotels on Clearwater Beach and St. Pete College, and all the different programs will be data loaded onto your individual card. And it's going to be a major change for our ridership that at the end will be better, but it'll be a major marketing effort and a outreach effort over the next year that we're just starting now. Just looking at some of the other items I just wanted to highlight, of course we talked about that we'll be really focused on major elements of our budget over the next several months at PSTA. We are rapidly moving on our other legislative priority, the Central Avenue BRT. We have a RFP now out on the street for final design, a final design contract for the Central Avenue BRT, and a pre-proposal conference is on Friday. So if there's any consultants out there watching this, please come and give us a good proposal on Friday. That's very exciting. Another key component that will have an effect on our budget that I want to thank Mr. James Bradford back there, our Chief Operating Officer, for leading is our negotiations with our largest union. The Bus Drivers and Mechanics Union contract ends September 30th. And James has already led 3 or 4 different sessions with the union. He tells me that it's going to take quite a few more sessions with the union. As you saw our budget presentation, we are very focused on maintaining our costs or limiting our costs for next year. The union doesn't necessarily see that so much, and their proposals, it's just going to take a lot of educational efforts to work with them. We may need to have some executive sessions with the PSTA board. We'll just have to see as we get closer to that September 30th date. Had a good meeting with the mayor of Tarpon Springs and some tasty Greek food, of course, in Mr. Banther's hometown. We're working with the city of Tarpon Springs on a senior citizen initiative that I think the mayor is very excited about, to again provide different kinds of mobility, maybe with an Uber or Lyft partnership up there in Tarpon Springs to specifically help senior citizens in Tarpon with some support from the city get around that community better. Out front as you leave today, you will see our newest members of our bus fleet, two of the, I think, 8 small buses that we have ordered. So feel free to take selfies in front of them and highlight that PSTA actually buys small buses to all those folks that say we never do on Facebook. they're very exciting. Those will be used up on our connector routes and other shuttle services. And last but not least, I will be on vacation starting tomorrow through the 4th of July week, and so Miss Debbie Leas there is going to be our acting CEO while I'm gone, and I'm sure she'll handle all financial crises that happen at PSTA or T-BARTA in the meantime.
Thank you for that report, Brad. I hope you enjoy your much-needed vacation.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Banther, when we do our comments at the end, I hope you'll share with us when the next First Fridays are. That would be great. All right, so do we have any other business to discuss here before the board meeting that you would like to talk about or share? No? Well, I would like to thank all of the board members that joined me yesterday at the airport for the launch of our brand-new service. It was terrific, and there was a ton of media opportunities there to promote PSTA, so thank you for taking time to cross the Howard Franklin Bridge yesterday, which is always an adventure, as we know. All right, so board member comments, Commissioner Caudell.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Very good meeting today, thank you, and we'll just continue to keep working as hard as we can to get our transit to continue to grow. Thank you for
Excellent.
having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Commissioner Banter?
Yes, thank you. Yes, if anybody wants to get their passport stamped and go north on the holiday weekend, we're having our first Friday on July 6th. And then we have what's really unique is we had Night of the Islands at the Sponge Docks on July 7th. So you really do feel like you're in like Colleen-Nose Grease when you're at that event. So that's 2 events in Tarpon Springs. They're free, of course, and then different vendors and restaurants you can visit. So thank you.
But do you know the dates in August? You can tell us again at our meeting.
I do not have those dates. They're generally first Friday. We do alter a little bit in the summertime, but I will get those dates firm for you for the next meeting, okay?
That would be great.
Thank you.
Commissioner Torga for Dunedin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too am very enthusiastic about what's happening at PSTA and all of the comments that have been made here. When I reviewed this session, I had in my hand at home this Route 300X, and having been at the presentation, excited about what's happening with this, and then I immediately want to jump in and say, hey, wait a minute, we really have to bring this back up at comment time and say, hey, we need to extend this to the weekend, and on and on and on. And of course, then after really looking at the budget again and understanding the Heather's presentation here, we're really and then looking at what Bob had presented. And by the way, Bob came over to just recently to our elderly community on the elderly, or I'll just call it the elderly community for sake of discussion, and presented this to them so they would have the access to know how we can do this or how we can help them. We're on a big program with the AARP right now. We're going to become a qualified city, and we're trying to help the folks that do want to age in place. But this whole plan, we're right, the budget was where we were and where we're going for next year, but this whole plan is can be very, very robust for us as we look at the alternative ways in the omni transportation. And so I just remain so enthusiastic about this. And I look at the dates that Heather talked about, and from that is where we're really going to, I think, we can take the next step up. I'm really excited about it. And so, yes, I would like to make comments about some of the little programs we have. I realize everybody wants to hear that because that's our reality. But I want to support staff right now real strongly of what they're doing as they're going through our summertime here and preparing all of this. And we're going to really see I think we're going to really see some exciting stuff at the end of the year. And from a planning purpose, I really appreciate the budgeting that was done and the detail and the attention to the detail and the reserves. I really appreciate the fact that we did use the assumption that we perhaps may not be receiving some additional monies from the homestead, or that we may not receive the monies from the homestead, and that if we do, well, then that's fine. And I want to say that all in conjunction with comments that were made by the others here. We need to look for other alternative ways of funding some of our things, even more than what we have. And staff has done a great job with that, and I think we just need to really stay on top of that. TDC was mentioned, but there's other grants, et cetera, and I think we really have to focus on that. I'd also like to see a presentation done very shortly, a very short presentation at some point in time, to talk about where we are with our tax situation, the 0.75, so we understand what we'd have to do to change that, and if you can't, then what do we need to do? And that's why we have what we call the advocates, running up and down with regards to Tallahassee and Washington, D.C., and that's why we go up there. We go up there for the transportation disadvantage, et cetera. So I think we really need to focus on alternate or additional ways of funding some of these programs. I'm very, very excited about 100X, all of the X's. I'm excited about collectors, the concept of collectors and connectors within the individual cities, for example, in Dunedin. And so I'm really looking forward to the next couple of meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before I recognize Commissioner Fenger, Mr. Blanton, I know you're sitting there in the audience. Might you come up at the end before we adjourn and just share with us some of your thoughts as we spoke about the disconnect on the rules that don't allow us to count the newest and latest and greatest of what we're doing? That would be helpful. Commissioner Fenger.
Thank you. I would like to just say that I think PSTA has done a great job of representation in the community, not only this past weekend in Pride and being out there, as well as in the last meeting I was here for the planning committee. When I left, we had a conversation about marketing and the bus wrap and the commercial. I honestly couldn't get away from that bus. It was everywhere. The bus wrap was everywhere, just specifically on that day. I've seen it out before, but it was just like on that day. I must have seen it 10 times. But as soon as I pulled out, I even saw it, and I was laughing to myself that, I take a picture every time that I saw it. So we're doing a really great job of being out there from, here throughout, Largo and Clearwater, where I was that day, and seeing, I was like, am I seeing the same bus? Why am I, you guys were out there. So I really commend us on doing a great job of marketing and making sure that people are aware of us, whether, as we've discussed, whether they're riders or non-riders. We are certainly catching attention by far. If I'm walking out, as soon as I walk out and see it, we have to be, as we've seen in our results, certainly catching attention. So I really think that that's something to be proud of. And I would also like to just say welcome to our Commissioner Caudell. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Commissioner Bennett.
Just one comment, I guess. I would like to acknowledge that I thought Heather and Bob's report were great reports, so I appreciated that. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you so much. It's nice to recognize the staff. They all work so hard. Thank you. Commissioner Josh Shulman. Sorry about that.
I got time today. I was just going to wait
Just
for
had a moment.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
That's what happens when you're so quiet.
Chair Long. I want to start off with the comments with a question first. I know we have our autonomous vehicle test coming up. Do we have a date nailed down for those tests yet?
Cassandra back there would have a more accurate date, but I think we are now targeting, we've been working with the city of St. Petersburg to coordinate with, to run it in concert with the ferry boat this fall. Starting when the ferry starts, hopefully that's when we're targeting to have the autonomous vehicle. We're trying to work on extending the pilot time period that we run it from 3 to 6 months. And so that's the latest on it.
I just want to make sure, because I know many groups that are interested in taking part in that test and seeing it work, so I want to make sure that we're in front of that. I also, Brad, I don't think you did as, you undersold the Flamingo app. It is, it really is a game changer on how people interact with transit, how people interact amongst the regional efforts. Our ability to track CPass users, UPass users, that also allows us to go back to those people that are paying for those services and explain why they need more, or market to other users as to why they should jump on board. So having that data is tremendous. I do think one area that we still can work on in our community outreach is through the Visit St. Pete Clearwater website. You know, as a resident or a visitor, if I go and I look for something to do, I'd like to be able to know how to get there. And I even looked at St. Pete Pride. So PSTA was the provider of transit for Pride, and it wasn't listed on the website as an option. To be fair, nothing was listed. So I guess this is, here's something, go, good luck, just try and get there. But that would be something that I think would help increase ridership as well, knowing how to interact with PSTA and where we're going. And finally, it wasn't in the reports today, but I believe it was in the finance report, but worth noting that the fare box revenue actually increased. I don't know if it was month to month or month from last year, but there was an increase in actual revenue dollars from the fare box. And I think that's important to note that, because we've heard often, you know, who's paying for these services, and even though we might see ridership declining, we actually have more revenue coming in. So, and I think the Flamingo app will help actually increase that revenue by making it easier for people to interact with the system. So I appreciate that, and we can't talk enough about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh. Commissioner Willa Brown.
Okay, thank you. I first just wanted to say thank you to the staff for what you did in St. Pete for our St. Pete Pride. It was amazing. I was there on Sunday. I saw the buses. They were very visible. But to provide the transportation for the patrons to the parade, they talk about that in St. Pete. So I think PSTA should give themselves a, you know, pat on the shoulder for that. One thing I wanted to also say was, it alarmed me when I saw the email about one of our drivers being attacked. And James, I thank you for the letter, the email that you sent out. So I hope everything is okay going forward. I'm sure you guys will keep us in the loop, but I just want our drivers to know that we really do appreciate you and we take your safety seriously. And I received an email from a constituent about the 100X, and what she shared with me was that she wished that it came a little farther south. She loves the idea, but she wished it came a little farther south to reach the residents, instead of the residents having to go, is it Gateway, where they can pick it up, right? Go all the way to Gateway.
Well, as of a week ago, now it goes to downtown St. Pete.
Oh, it did? Well, thank you. I will share that.
Yeah.
So that's even better. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, thank you, Madam.
Please hit your mic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate that. Thank you for your comment about the public safety issue with our drivers, and really any of our employees can't be overstated enough. So thank you for that. The only comment that I would make is, as we move forward, I think trying to figure out those premium ridership options, you know, marketing to our aging community, you know, we're becoming an aging-friendly county, and many communities already are aging-friendly, but the baby boomers are getting older, and those folks are going to absolutely want to keep getting around and doing things, and I think the way we're going is that we're trying to explore every opportunity that we can to get people to be able to access life, and so that is one key area I think that we continue focusing on, and so I commend, again, want to commend the efforts. We've got to get there. You know, there's a lot of trial and tribulation between now and having this organization firmly, financially, not want to say solvent because we're solvent, I don't mean that, but you know, comfortable where we are and where we're heading. And a lot of work to do, and I really want to thank staff for that. But focusing on these target markets, we can really start to understand each one's specific needs and maybe start to adjust our services. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Eggers. Commissioner Scott, please hit your mic. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, first of all, I'd like to echo your comments, Madam Chair, with the TIA event. earlier this week. It was really nice to see that much regional excitement about this new service. So I'm very excited about that, and hoping that's going to be a huge success and that we can expand upon that program in the future. And then secondly, it was very interesting seeing Heather's presentation about the community bus plan, and I thought it was a great presentation, so thanks for that, Heather. I think it would be an interesting exercise to look at, to financially benchmark the routes that we currently have as we look at potentially redesigning things. So we know from a fare box recovery standpoint what are our low and our high performing routes. And I realize fare box recovery isn't the only factor that goes in deciding what's going to happen with a route, but it's certainly a component of one as we look at expanding surface and expanding frequency, and also, you know, mitigating deficits and things as we go down the road. So I'd like us to take a look at doing that. And with that, we'll see you all next month.
Thank you. And Brad, will you please make a note so that we get that information back to him? Thank you. Commissioner Gerard, please hit your mic.
I
There you
did.
go. There you go. Thank you.
I think, actually, when we do the rerouting, that's what we base it on, is the frequency and the fare box revenues and that sort of thing. One of the things that occurred to me when we were talking about the 100 and 300X the other day is that we need to have some specialized service to St. Pete Clearwater Airport for the many millions of people that are coming in there, and get them to the beaches rapidly. So I'm hoping we can incorporate that into our planning process, because I think we're missing a big market there.
Very good point. And I'm sorry, do you have something to add to that, Brad?
No, I think there will be more to come on that. We have a little idea.
Great. Commissioner Barkley, please hit your mic. Thank you.
My voice isn't loud enough?
No, we want to make sure you're heard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to congratulate PSTA on all the outreach that it's doing, the things that Bob Lasher and Heather Sobrush are doing. We're doing a great job of working on the marketing component of what we need to be doing. We have a lot of great services right now with Direct Connect and First Mile, Last Mile, and Late Shift. And I think our exciting new 100X, I think I was the only person there from the board at the 100X. Matter of fact, there's a picture of my truck on one of those slides that went through. But the 300X, we had a good turnout, and that was outstanding. It's good to know that the public around the counties of Hillsborough and Pinellas are aware of what we're doing with regard to getting folks quickly to the beaches and to work on a regular basis. The one thing that I do want to mention that this meeting really called to my attention is we're a public service entity. We are not a for-profit entity. When we talk about deficits and all those kinds of things repeatedly, we give a negative impact to what we do. We're a public service entity. We're doing a lot of great things, and we need to talk up the great things and not spend so much time on the issues that probably should be discussed in the committees. And with that, I'll just also say that I was unable to ride the Pride bus, but I was participating in Pride. I was serving beer at the Stonewalls booth. So we still participated in Pride. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome. And with that said, Mr. Blanton, could you please come forward and give us some input? Thank you. I know you weren't expecting to do that, but you never know when you'll have an opportunity.
That's why you wear a tie.
There you go.
Good morning, everybody. Whit Blanton, Executive Director, Ford Pinellas. You know, it is an issue that is a national issue, and there are, PSTA is not alone addressing the discrepancy in ridership reporting in the National Transit Database. And it is something that I know has been part of PSTA's legislative agenda for a little while. The wheels of the bureaucracy do turn slowly, but it's something that we would be happy to support that effort however possible. And I have a phone call this afternoon with the American Planning Association's Legislative and Policy Committee, and our government relations person on that call is Jason Jordan, and I'll ask him if it's been on his radar screen, because he also represents transit agencies around the country too.
Good.
So
Thank you.
if there's a coalition we can build, I'm happy to do so, and it just makes sense to account for those different rides as we evolve with better technology, with Uber Pool and other types of programs out there that really are functioning as transit operators. And, you know, as we expand waterborne transportation, you know, that's another area where those trips count as transit. And we need to be reporting that as well. So we'll do what we can.
Very good points.
Sure.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to having you and Commissioner Caudell bring that up at the next TMA meeting, too.
Okay, sounds good.
Good. All right, well then, I think we have completed our charge for today, and if there's nothing else for the good of the order, nothing else? Anybody? Okay, then we are adjourned. Thank you. See you next month on the 25th at 9 o'clock.
Enjoy your time.